Night settles like a soft blanket over the pines. It does not hurry. It does not knock. It just arrives. The way night always does in a quiet town that already knows how to listen. The last gold lines of sunset fold into a slow blue. Porch lights blink on one by one. Somewhere a screen door closes. Somewhere a dog sighs. And above it all, the trees keep standing, patient and tall. A green-black sea that has learned the long language of the wind. If you listen now, you can hear the small sounds of Gravity Falls getting ready for sleep. The diner wipes its counters. The post office stacks a few letters that came late. The souvenir shelves in the shack stop rattling and rest. Somewhere in a second-floor bedroom, a lamp glows through a curtain and makes a perfect little square of warmth on the lawn. The forest edges lean in toward the town, not to hide it, but to cradle it. Tonight, we will walk there, not with heavy boots, not with racing thoughts. We will walk in the slow way of dreams, where each step is gentle, and every breath opens another window. Find the feeling of your breath, in and out, like the tall trees leaning and rising when the breeze passes through. Imagine you are holding a small lantern. It is not bright. It is not sharp. The lantern is kind. The glass is warm to your fingers. It makes a circle of light that moves with you and shows only what you need to see. The rest can wait in shadow, comfortable and safe. There is a path at the edge of town. The gravel remembers footsteps from 100 summers. The pines have dropped needles there, and they make the ground soft. The path is not a straight line. It bends the way a ribbon bends. It welcomes your pace. You take the lantern and step onto the path. It is night, but not the kind of night that pushes. This night makes room. The stars look down and blink in quiet agreement. Owls speak in low voices, the kind that feel like a blanket on words. We are not here to hunt a secret. We are not here to pull tight on any knot. We are here to be near the town while it dreams. Gravity Falls does not turn its face away when the lights go out. It turns its face towards something softer, a set of stories that only glow after dark. You will hear them if you keep breathing and keep walking and let your thoughts settle like leaves in a bowl of still water. In the slow circle of your lantern, the first moth comes to visit. Its wings are pale and powdered. It does not bump or startle. It drifts in, reads the light, and drifts on. A second moth follows. This one has a spot on each wing that looks like an eye, but the eyes are only patterns, and the pattern is only a quiet design the night want to remember. The moths know the way. They always do. They are the guides of small things. Ahead, the path splits, and the forest chooses for you the soft nudge of wind. There is a signpost. The paint has faded. The letters can be guessed more than read. One arrow points toward the river, one toward the deeper trails you have not walked before. One arrow, curiously, points straight up into the sky, as if the stars were a neighborhood street you could visit if you were wearing the right sweater. The sign creaks in a way that sounds almost like a laugh. The lantern warms your hand. The woods sigh. The town breathes. With each easy step, your thoughts grow lighter. The day loosens its knots and sets them down. Worries become pine cones that roll off the path and rest in the needles. Questions become fog that the lantern parts into ribbons. You do not need to solve anything. You only need to listen. When the town sleeps, the stories do not end. They simply change their shape. They become the low music beneath the trees. Let the first dream spark. See it like a tiny ember floating up from a campfire, bright for a moment, then calmer, then joining the stars. The ember will lead the way. It bobs and waits for you and moves when you move. Follow it to the hush between trunks where the real night begins. Not a dark that hides, but a dark that holds. We will keep to the slow pace. We will keep to the soft voice. The lantern will go with us. The ember will stay ahead. And every time the path opens a little wider, you will feel your shoulders drop and your breath get longer, like the whole forest is teaching you how to rest. Tonight we are not measuring hours. The clocks can sleep too. Tonight we are measuring how the heart loosens. We are measuring how a small light makes a big space feel friendly. We are measuring the tiny click that happens inside when you remember that the world is sometimes a kind place. Gravity Falls has always known this. It keeps a chair for you on the porch of its stories. It sets a mug there. Steam curls up, then disappears. Everything is ready. When you are ready, step off the last edge of town and let the trees close behind you like curtains. The show is beginning. There will be no loud music, only the soft turning of pages. And so the first dream sparks, and so you follow. The forest floor is not just dirt. It is a memory quilt. Needles stitched into needles across years. Pine cones like buttons. Moss like the softest cloth in a drawer of old sweaters. When you kneel and press your hand there, the ground gives a little. Not because it is empty, but because it is full. Roots travel like stories just below the surface, reaching from tree to share slow news. A beetle carries a sentence from one log to another. A salamander keeps a secret in its pocket and will tell it only to the small pool where moonlight collects. Step here. The lantern glosses the tops of mushrooms, small white houses with gentle roofs. Their walls are thin and careful. Their doors are always unlocked. The gnomes have been here. You can tell by the tiny rakes and the tiny brooms leaned against a stump. They are tidy when the world is not looking. They tend the edges of the path so the next traveler will find them. If a gnome peeks up from behind a mushroom, you will hear the little sound of a hat being tipped. He will not ask for anything. He knows you are walking for the sake of walking. Listen. You will hear the long needles making their soft rain even when no rain is falling. You will hear a bird that only sings after the second twilight. It sings one note, then waits for your breath, then sings again. You will hear the slow creak of a big branch settling into a new idea. The forest is thinking, but its thoughts do not squeeze. They release. They release and release again, the way you will let the day leave your shoulders. A pair of eyes appears at the edge of the lantern's circle. Do not worry. The eyes belong to a deer who has borrowed an extra pair for the night. The forest sometimes lends things. The deer steps closer and its breath clouds the air for a small moment, and then the clouds are gone. Its hoof falls make no sound. The deer bows, then walks away into the dark with the extra eyes watching over its back. You understand without speaking that extra eyes mean extra safety here, not extra fear. The forest shares what is needed. Farther in, the ground swells up a little, and you find a hill that is not a hill. It is a sleeping giant of roots, a tangle bigger than the lantern can show all at once. Put your palm against the bark. It is cool. Feel the heartbeat. It is very slow, so slow you can only catch it if you are not trying. There, one there, another. The tree is not in a hurry, and it is counting years the way you count breaths. It knows that there has always been a small light passing under it at night, held by someone who is learning to be gentle with themselves. Your lantern throws a quiet, round shadow of you onto a fallen trunk. The shadow does not stick to your feet. It moves the way a friend might move ahead to check the path and then wait. You walk and your shadow nods and the trunk becomes a bridge. On the other side, you find a circle of stones. Someone made them into a ring long ago. Maybe children laughing. Maybe elders humming. Maybe both. The stones are cool to the touch and warm in their purpose. Sit here for a while. The forest likes it when you sit. Above, the stars have come a little closer, as if they wanted to see how you are doing. They hang between the tallest branches. The sky is a bowl turned over and full of quiet sugar. If you try to count the stars, you will forget the number on purpose and start again, because counting is not the point here. The point is that each little light makes friends with the next little light, and together they say, "We are here. So are you." That is enough. A small wind walks by. It has the smell of green wood and river stones. It has a sound like pages turning slowly in a journal that remembers everything but never judges. The wind rises and then rests. It makes a path through the ferns that your eyes can follow if they want. If not, the ferns will fold back and pretend nothing happened. The forest can keep secrets, and it can also share them. It decides based on what will help you sleep. You think of stories you have heard about these trees. Tall tales told on porches. Warnings told with a smile to make them softer. All of those stories are here, tucked into the bark. But in the night they lie down beside each other and the sharp parts rub smooth. Even the tail of the shapeshifter curls at the edges and becomes a quiet lesson about how faces can be many and still be kind. The forest edits for tenderness when the moon is up. If you listen in the far distance, you will hear the town clock. It takes its time to decide each hour, and then it peals it once, twice, 3 times, as many as it needs and no more. The sound comes through the trees with a velvet edge. It is time, yes, but it is also just another note in the soft song the night is playing. You feel your jaw unclench without noticing when the 3rd chime is done. Walk again. The lantern steers you beside a log that opens like a door into itself. Inside the log glow small green points, not eyes this time. Little forest lights that live their whole life in whispers. They are not trying to be stars. They are not trying to be noticed. They are being exactly what they are, and the log is proud to hold them. When you lean closer, they dim a little and then brighten, as if sharing a quiet joke with your lantern. Here the path turns toward a place where roots knit together above the dirt and make a low arch. You bow your head and pass under. On the other side, the air feels cooler and the sound of your breath sounds bigger, like it has a cathedral to live in now. The pines close ranks and leave a long, straight aisle ahead. You are not in a building. You are in a feeling. The forest can build feelings the way a town builds houses. At the end of the aisle sits a stump with a flat top. On the top there is a little bowl someone carved and left. It catches rain. Tonight it has caught moon. The surface is so still you can see your lantern twice, once above, once below. Dip your fingertip to break the surface. The moon ripple goes out, returns, and settles. Everything is the same and also better. That is how small rituals work in this place. You have been walking a while, and your steps have learned the forest speed. It is slower than your day speed. It is kinder. Even your thoughts have started to use shorter words. The night likes short words. It likes words that sit and stay and do not run ahead. Rest here for a breath, then rise. The floor of the woods opens into a little clearing with grass that smells like morning even though it is night. A fox crosses the clearing. It looks at you and nods as if to say, "I know the way you came. I know the way you will go. Both are good." You have listened to the ground. You have learned the song under the needles. You have met eyes and lanterns, moths and moss. The forest has given you its first dream, which is this: under everything, a softness. Even when the world makes noise, under everything, this softness waits. Keep that in your pocket. The path now moves toward the sound you have been hearing all along without knowing. Water speaking in the steady voice that water has when it has an old job. Follow it. The river does not shout. It practices one word over and over until the word is smooth. That word is go. The river says it to the pebbles. The river says it to the roots that lean in for drink. The river says it to the moon when the moon bends down to look at itself. Go, not fast, not away, just go. You reach the bank. The lantern shows the round stones stacked along the edge like a line of sleeping turtles. The water rubs the stones with a sound like quiet applause. The surface is dark until it isn't, and then it carries little threads of silver and gold. You kneel and dip your hand, and the cold is honest. It wakes your fingers in a kind way and tells them, you are part of this too. There is a boat, small enough for one, tied to a post with a rope that has learned its knots by heart. No one is here, and yet it feels offered. You touch the boat, and it answers with a low wooden hum. That sound means, welcome in the language of easy things. You sit. The boat accepts your weight and becomes a cradle. You set the lantern at your feet, and it paints a round coin of light on the plank. The rope unties itself as if it has been waiting all day to be free. The river takes you. The word is still go. You do not steer. The boat knows. The river knows. Your work is to rest on the sloped back of the seat and listen. Trees lean in from both sides, their hair combed by the current. Their reflections make tall cities in the water that break and build again with every little ripple. Every few breaths, a fish makes a circle where it kissed the air. The circles grow and then are folded into the next pattern by the next fish. No one hurries. All of it continues. The river has carried 1,000 summers. It has heard laughter and the clunk of oars and the splash of shoes that slipped. It has watched children learn how to see their faces in a moving mirror. It has watched elders tell a story in a voice that goes lower at the best parts. At night, the river keeps these memories. It sets them on the surface like leaves. If you look, you can see them. There, a picture of early settlers pushing logs down with long poles, faces soft with effort and the good kind of tired. Their lanterns were brighter, their nights darker, but the river's word was the same. Go. There, a picture of a summer day when the whole town floated paper boats with little wishes tucked inside. The boats bumped each other and no one minded. Wishes make friends, too. There, a picture of a person sitting alone in a boat, listening very hard, the way you are listening now. And the river met them where they were and spoke in slow water words until their chests felt roomy again. Now the river shows you the town edges. The back of the diner where the cook holds a mug at the back step to cool before the last wash-up. The laundromat windows stacking circles with circles. The bench where two elders sit every evening with their knees exactly the same distance apart, talking about everything and nothing. Their conversation rises and falls like the river itself. The river hears their stories and keeps them safe. If they forget one, the water remembers. A bend comes up and the boat takes it like a dancer. You feel the tiniest lift in your belly and then you are pointed toward a stretch where the trees open and the stars finally have room to look at their whole reflection. The sky and the river become one picture. For a moment you cannot tell which way is up. The lantern solves it by making a little sun on the plank. Up and down are only words. The feeling is the same wherever you look. Quiet, friendly, endless enough to hold your breathing. A heron stands knee-deep in the shallows like a statue that decided to be real. It turns its head slowly, then slowly back. The boat glides by. The heron does not pretend to ignore you. It sees you and makes seeing calm. You learn from it without trying. After it, the bank rises into a low bluff where you can see the outline of the town with some lights out, some still on, and the radio in one house playing the tail end of an old song that your parents liked. The river carries the last notes down to you and lays them across your lap like a shawl. Now the water deepens and runs more sure of itself. Here the memories are older. Here the stones under the surface have stories worn into them by hands and by hooves and by paws that came to drink. The lantern gives you a window below the surface. You see shapes that are not fish, not plants, not lost tools. You see letters, letters made of light. They drift and rearrange and become small words that mean small kindnesses, rest, home, stay. The river knows what helps. Sometimes the river runs backward for a few heartbeats and gravity falls. People have said so. They shake their heads when they tell it, but their eyes smile. If it happens tonight, you will not be surprised. The river is a kind of clock that allows itself to be wrong so that you can learn that rightness is not always a straight line. For now it goes forward. That is fine. If it went back, you would still be carried. The shore fills with willows for a time. Their long hair drags the surface like fingers. They comb the river's thoughts so they will not tangle. The boat moves under the thin green curtain, and for a few breaths you are in a secret room that smells like rain even though it is dry. When you emerge, the air is brighter with stars. The moon has climbed and is now a coin so clean you could buy anything with it. The river buys quiet. There is a shallow place ahead where stepping stones hop from bank to bank. Children like to cross here in the day. At night, the stones glow just enough that you could walk if you needed to, but you do not need to. Your boat glides between them, careful not to touch. The stones hum as you pass. They approve of floating. They approve of letting something else do the holding for a while. A bridge comes wooden with initials carved along the rail where two names found each other and wanted to keep it. The boat moves under. The lantern throws your light up onto the underbelly of the bridge, and the names look like constellations. Every letter a star, every plus sign a comet between. It is a simple bridge, a kind bridge. When you come out on the far side, the river shows a last picture for this part of the journey. It shows the town sleeping, seen from above, as if the river had eyes in the sky. The roofs are soft shapes. The streets are quiet lines. The clock face is a round cookie with a bite of shadow. The forest leans over the edges like parents tucking a blanket around a child who fell asleep on the couch. The river is content. The boat knows where to land. A small dock waits. The rope ties itself again. The word go becomes the word stay just for now. You lift the lantern and step back onto the bank. Your feet find the ground with thanks. Behind you, the river keeps speaking to whoever is listening. Ahead, a side path rises toward a pocket of town that remembers the first people who named its streets, its squares, and its promises. The path feels older here. Your lantern brightens for a moment, then returns to its usual warm. It is ready for the next part. So are you. Town at night is different from town by day. The signs lower their voices. The glass in the windows grows shy and keeps its reflections close to the chest. The bricks let their heat seep out into the air and stand there like elders with their hands behind their backs, watching. You walk past the square and the statue of the man who pointed and said, "There, that is where we will build." His finger still points. In the lantern's glow, his face looks softer than it does at noon. Not grand, not foolish, just human, which is the right size for anyone in a story. Nathaniel Northwest is a name people say with a smile that means more than one thing. He was a founder. He was a talker. He had a coat that made a small town look like a big dream. He told stories that stuck, even when they were not exactly the shape of the day they described. Tonight he dreams of giving speeches to plants. He stands in a little park with a pocket watch open to a time that never arrives, and he addresses the azaleas in full sentences about civic pride. The azaleas nod. Sometimes they applaud with leaves. He bows. For once it is enough. Not far from there is the first library. By day it is a modest room with shelves that lean and a rug that always needs a little turn. By night it breathes. The card catalog opens and closes like a chest. The wooden chairs lower themselves by an inch so no one has to climb too hard into a story. The librarian from the old days comes in a dream coat knitted out of book spines. She files not just books, but dreams. She takes the dream you are having now and puts it in a drawer labeled Gentle Walks 3, and then she looks up and smiles in your direction because she knows you will check it out again one day. The mayor in those early years had a habit. He could sleep while standing. He could dream while the town recited numbers to him. He was not lazy. He was good at letting his mind go quiet so he could hear the small solutions that do not shout their own praise. In the night he walks the streets and counts lampposts and keeps losing track because the stars keep insisting he count them too. He laughs without sound at his own mistake and starts over. The town is grateful. Elections, it turns out, are partly about who can laugh at night and start over gently in the morning. You pass the blacksmith's old shop. The anvil glints. No one is hammering at this hour, but the tools remember hands. They rest in their places like sleeping guardians. They have names which they only use in the dark. The hammer is called promise. The tongs are called patience. The file is called second try. The founders did not write those names on any map, but the shop knows them and teaches them to the next person who steps inside with work to do. At the end of a narrow alley is the first post office, or rather the room that served as one before the brick building came. There is a stack of letters that were never sent because they were never written. They sit like blank paper that has already promised to become something. If you listen, you can hear a few words drift from them and float around your shoulders. Hello again. I was thinking of you. There is a stillness to that room that feels like held breath, and yet the held breath is not panicked. It is expecting a soft yes from somewhere and is willing to wait. The founders had a bakery. Every town knows this. Yours too. In Gravity Falls, the early bakers were famous for a kind of night bread. It rose at moonset and was ready just as the first blue entered the east. People would line up with quiet smiles and hold their baskets like small boats. The night bread was not sweet. It tasted like a story with a good ending. As you pass the old bakery door, you can smell a memory of it. Flour, warm wood, a hint of salt. Someone set 2 loaves on the sill of time and let them cool there for anyone passing at night. You take a crumb in your mind and eat it, and feel stronger in the kind of way that lets you sleep longer. A little farther on is the square where speeches happen. Sashes, hats, pinned flowers. On some nights, unlike this one, the square hosts a quieter gathering. The founders return in their dream shapes and sit on the steps with their shoes off. They tell a different kind of story than they tell in books. They talk about the first time they were frightened here and what made it softer. They talk about the first baby born in a thunderstorm and how the thunder did not wake her, because even the thunder wanted her to rest. They talk about the time the river played a trick and flowed the wrong way for an hour, and every person in town stood at the bank and laughed in the same pitch. The laughing fixed something that was not broken but needed oil. On the corner is the little office where the town records began. It is a filing cabinet of promises. Some promises were kept. Some changed shape. Some learned to be better promises by sleeping on the shelf for a few years. Pull open a drawer in your mind and read the careful names and dates. There is a record of a bench being placed beneath a particular maple tree for anyone who needed to be alone together. There is a record of the rule about bells after midnight. Not a law, a courtesy. The bells may ring if they ring slowly and respectfully because someone somewhere is falling asleep for the first time in a new house and deserves the world to lower its chin and nod. The founders did not know everything. They did not build perfectly. They were people. Gravity Falls held them the way it holds you now, with patience and with a great green presence that made them a little braver and a little kinder when the days were rough. At night they walked the same paths you are walking. Their lanterns were heavier and their coats were thicker, but the feeling was the same in their ribs. Here is a place. It knows me. I can learn to know it back. You stop at a plaque on a wall. In the dark, your lantern shows only part of the text at a time. That is fine. The words fit no matter where you start. They tell of a tree that was planted by a child and a day when the child grew up and needed shade and found it there. They tell of a time when the town chose patience instead of noise. They tell of how a name placed on a map is less important than a name placed on a neighbor's door when you bring them soup. The plaque is not for tourists at night. It is for you, it says. You are part of this, even if you do not live here. Quiet is a kind of citizenship. The statue of Nathaniel stands again as you circle back. He is still pointing. The lantern makes his shadow long across the bricks. You raise your hand, not to be grand, but to mirror him in a small way. You point too toward the trees, toward the river path you just left, toward the sky where a single shooting star draws a white thread and then pulls it through the fabric of night until it disappears. Your finger does not command, it acknowledges. There is more to walk. There is more to rest inside of. The founders lean back into their dream benches. The librarian closes the drawer with your dream file gently inside. The mayor loses count of the lampposts again and hums. The bakery exhales the last breath of warm night bread into the alley. You lower your hand and the lantern answers with a little brighter glow, the way a friend nods when you say, I am ready. The path that leads away from the square dips toward the woods again. The town behind you continues its sleep, which is another way of saying it continues its prayer. You follow the curve of the road until the road becomes path and the path becomes a hush between trunks. The founders stay where they are. You carry what they learned. Ahead are other rooms of the night. Ahead are other soft doors. Keep breathing. Keep the lantern. The story is not in a hurry. Neither are you. The path returns you to a porch where a neon sign naps. Its red letters breathe. On. Almost off. On again. The boards carry the soft creak of 100 daytimes, but tonight they hold still like a stage waiting for a whispered line. You lift your lantern. The glow answers the glass door with a friendly circle. Inside, the House of Curiosities, this odd, beloved shack, waits the way a museum waits after closing, not empty, only quiet enough to hear itself. You push the door with 2 fingers. It's already unlocked in the way dreams are. The bell above it gives one tiny sound and decides that is enough. The air is cooler here, edged by the tin smell of old shelves and the warm dust of summer. Rows of displays tilt like listeners. The floorboards make their careful map and invite you to take as much space as your breath needs. The exhibits live differently at night. The world's most questionable oddities do not crowd you. They practice good manners. In your lantern circle, jars turn their labels so you don't have to squint. The wax figures, once posed with thrilling expressions, rest their faces and let their eyebrows smooth out. One tips his hat in a slow, patient way and returns to stillness as if the world had taught him to be gentler after hours. You pause by a case of pebbles that look exactly like other pebbles, but were once sold as mind-reading stones. The sign underneath, handwritten, a little crooked, says, "Think softly." You do. For a moment you picture nothing at all, and the case fogs just enough to draw a smiley face from the inside. The glass clears. Your chest does too. A wall of postcards from places that may or may not exist tilts toward you. The cards aren't sorted by distance or by truth. They're sorted by comfort. "Wish you were here" repeats in a dozen fonts, and somehow each one means it. You touch the corner of a card showing a purple mountain shaped exactly like a sleeping cat. The card purrs. You lift your hand, and the sound fades, but the kindness stays. Farther in, a red curtain hangs from a bent rod, hiding a tiny stage used for weekday shows that are better than they promise to be. Tonight the curtain moves a fingertip's width, then settles. Your lantern sends a small semicircle of gold underneath. A paper star slides out on a thread and stops where you can see it. It is cut poorly. It is perfect. You set the lantern down and clap once, softly, so even the moths won't startle. The paper star seems satisfied. It floats back where it came from. At the counter, a jar labeled "Leave a Worry, Take a Smile" sits beside a stack of bent spoons that swore they were haunted, but were simply tired. You reach into your pocket for a worry that has been riding all day. You don't need to tell it out loud. You fold it in half, then in half again, the way notes to your future self are folded. You slip it under the lid. Something like fizzing soda, very faint, rises and disappears. The jar glows once and then pretends it didn't. In exchange, you take a paper smile cut with big, blunt scissors. You do not put it on your face. You put it in your pocket next to where the worry used to be. The weight changes. At the far wall, a map of the town hangs under glass. By day, people poke it and ask, "Where are we?" By night, the map answers without needing a finger. A tiny, warm light pulses right where you stand. "Here," it says, as if here were the most useful word you could hear. You believe it. Your shoulders drop another notch. Behind the counter sits a stool that has carried long afternoons and a cash register that knows the arithmetic of small joys. The register sleeps with its drawer open a bit, like a cat's mouth when it dreams. Beside it, a notebook thick with hand-scribbled tallies lies open to a page that reads, "Good stories told today, 7. Good stories traded for other good stories, 7. Balance perfect." You wander to the back hall where flimsy posters list upcoming attractions. Coming soon, the absolutely normal rock. Tonight only, the mirror that compliments you. The mirror waits behind a bead curtain. Beads click like rain when you pass through. The mirror does not show your hair or your collar or the lantern you are holding. It shows the shape your breath makes when it is peaceful. It looks like a small cloud over a lake at dawn. You do not know you needed that picture until you have it. The mirror nods. You nod back. A door marked "Employees Only" is ajar. This is not an invitation to break a rule. It is night, as if where boundaries soften into kindness. You tap the door with one knuckle. It swings wider to a tidy workshop that remembers 100 repairs at the last second before opening. A pegboard holds tools like a choir. The bench holds a radio that sometimes sings on its own in the middle of the day. Tonight, It hums only two notes, alternating like the heartbeat of a sleepy town. A calendar on the wall shows a month that ended a few summers ago. All the days have small dots of pencil in their corners where someone planned to plan. The only date circled reads, "Make it fun." The circle is thick and a little shaky, drawn by a hand that cared more than it would admit. You touch the circle with one fingertip and feel a warm nickel of pride that isn't yours but gladly includes you. Back in the main room, the neon sign outside comes fully awake and shines its soft red through the window. The light is not loud. It is a nightlight for the sidewalk. You stand by the door and look over your shoulder once the ways you do when leaving a room you like. Not to check for lost items, but to thank the air for being good company. The House of Curiosities responds in its language, wood, glass, faded paint, with a small settling sound that means see you tomorrow or see you again in a dream, whichever comes first. You step onto the porch. The sign breathes. On. Almost off. On again. Your lantern joins it for a second, then you turn toward the path. The shack, museum, market memory rests behind you with every odd thing in its place, and every odd thing a little less odd, now that night has explained it gently. The door closes with a click that feels like the end of a sentence that knew exactly how to stop. The trees receive you again. The path forms under your feet. The lantern travels in a small circle you can trust. Ahead, a dim glow among the pines. Not fire, not house, not star. It is the color of reading. The glow among the trees resolves into a clearing strung with lights that are not bulbs. They are pages. They float, open and slowly turning, like quiet moths that learn to read. Each page holds ink that looks dark by day, but tonight it shines softly, as if the words remember the light they were written by. Lanterns hang at different heights, their mantles made of stitched-together scraps of paper, margins still visible, tape lines clear and proud. You enter the clearing, and the nearest lantern tilts to greet you. It smells like pencil shavings and pine sap. You recognize the feeling of a desk at midnight when curiosity is kind, not restless. The words on the pages are careful. Some are crossed out. Some have arrows in the margins pointing to later thoughts. Little drawings of creatures nap in the corners, their eyes closed, their teeth reimagined as polite. One lantern reads itself to you in a voice that is not a voice, but a texture, steady, attentive, a kind of listening that happens from paper to person. It tells the story of a trail found by following the wrong directions the right way. It tells of a bird that only speaks when you admit you don't know what it is called. It tells you that maps are conversations and notes are boats, and that the first draft of a thought is simply a place to sit. You walk beneath the next lantern. Its pages turn a small breeze that cares about punctuation. On one page, a creature that looked frightening at noon is drawn with rounder lines. Beside it, a note, harmless if greeted. Another prefers kindness to fear, same as us. The lantern sways and the light falls across your hands. You see the little scuffs there, the proof of days. The pages seem to see them too and fold a brightness across them, the way a blanket might cover a sleeping knee. A narrow table sits in the grass with a box of old pens resting like sleeping minnows. A card invites you in small, neat handwriting. Write what you learned today that made you breathe easier. You choose a pen that still has time left in it. On a scrap of paper already edged with other scraps, you write, "It's okay to forget and remember later." The ink looks too dark for a second, then dries into the exact weight of the thought. You slide your scrap into the frame of a nearby lantern. It takes it gratefully and glows a little warmer, the way a person does when handed a good memory to hold. Another lantern drifts low enough for you to look down into it. Its pages show diagrams of night sounds, the names of crickets written like long lines, the owl in short round syllables, the far road and soft dashes that barely connect. In the center of the diagram is the word you, not large, not small, written once, underlined once, with a note. Breath becomes part of the field recording. You exhale. The lantern brightens and then settles, as if you had checked your name on a list. There are lanterns stitched from failed pages too, scribbles, stains, wrong guesses, tired hands. They might be your favorite. Their seams are more visible, their tape less straight, their glow a touch braver. One is made from a map that crossed itself 3 times before finding the right door. Another from a list that starts as a to-do and ends as a poem. The failures become light in a way that is not metaphor, but simple craft. Paper held close to a flame learns to carry it. A small stool waits beside a bound volume that is seen every summer. You sit. The book opens to a pressed leaf and a pencil line. Keep what kept you. You run a finger along the edge of the leaf and it does not crumble. The book returns the gesture by letting you see a memory that is not exactly yours, but offers itself. A young person sits at a desk under a lamp made from a jar and a roll of patience. They write and erase and write and forget to erase and go to sleep with their face in their sleeve. In the dream that follows, the margins walk up and whisper the solution as gently as possible. In the morning, the answer is still there, waiting in the soft crease where their cheek reached the paper. Between 2 pines, a clothesline stretches with clipped pages like laundry. They are titled with simple names. Today, yesterday, a good guess. Not sure yet. Questions I loved. You stand beneath questions I loved. They are not riddles. They are not tests. They are warm stones you can carry without effort and place wherever you camp. What is the kindest way this could be? What did the wind say to the grass? Which door was not a door until someone knocked softly? The clearing has a guest book on a stump. It has no first names, only drawings of lanterns and short notes. Thank you for the slow light. I slept better after page 23. I thought I had to know. Turns out I only had to listen. You add a tiny lantern of your own, 2 triangles and a circle of glow, with a note. This helped. The stump holds the page as if it were always meant to be there. At the far edge, a single lantern stands apart. It is newer. The paper is crisp. The handwriting is more careful, like someone trying not to wake a baby. The pages are mostly empty by choice. This lantern is for what will be learned later, when you are ready, when the town is ready, when the light is just right. You bow to it, not deeply, just enough to show you understand, and it bows back with a calm future glow. When you leave the clearing, some lanterns dim and some brighten the way porch lights do when a friend goes down the sidewalk. Your lantern in your hand looks a little bigger now, or maybe your hand is less tight. Either way, the circle at your feet grows by a step. The pages continue to turn gently above the grass as you rejoin the path. Ahead, corridors that aren't corridors, doors that are stars, and a feeling like reaching without grasping. Curiosity has put on its soft-soled shoes. The trees thicken, then part into a hallway that has no ceiling and too many doors to count. The doors are not numbered. They are not even doors if you stare too directly. They are patches of air that hold their shape, each edged in starlight the way frost edges a window. Curiosity comes here at night when it has made peace with not knowing. It wears a lantern on a strap and it walks, slow enough to hear its own questions, become music instead of thunder. You step into the corridor and it is suddenly true that every choice is gentle. There is no wrong door. There is only the next door you will visit, because you are breathing now and your feet are where they are. You try one to your left. It opens with no sound onto a room as small as a coat closet and as wide as a library. In the center sits a desk with a map you haven't seen yet. The map is of a town that looks like yours, only a few degrees kinder. The rivers are labeled with verbs. Listen river, try again creek, learn lake. You place the tip of your finger on try again creek, and the map warms underneath, then cools like a living thing considering your request. You thank it. You go back into the hall. Another door opens to a rooftop where the constellations are closer than you expected, and somehow still far enough for comfort. There is a telescope already set up, pointed not at a star, but at a patch of quiet. You look. The quiet looks back. You dial the focus and the blur becomes shape, a knot of old light traveling a patient road. It may never arrive. That does not make it lost. Someone has tied a ribbon on the telescope's barrel. The ribbon says, point anywhere. You do. Each anywhere says, hello. Further along, a door the size of a book leans open like a dog's ear. Inside is a narrow hallway with shelves on one side and mirrors on the other, alternating sentence by sentence. The shelves hold questions. The mirrors hold your face, becoming calmer, as you notice that questions can live on shelves and still feel at home. A small sign hangs from the ceiling, return dates extended for wonder. You smile without meaning to. The mirrors smile back, not creepily, just accurately. A door painted the exact wrong color for night, bright, hopeful, opens onto a field of index cards weighed down with pebbles. Each card has a note in crisp, tidy writing, the kind that can be read even by tired eyes. Found a puzzle, not urgent, felt friendly. Saw a shadow, it was mine, made peace with it. Heard a voice, it was the wind. Wrote it down anyway. You kneel and add a card of your own. Tried every key. The door was a curtain. A moth lands on the corner as if to stamp it official. The field accepts your card and makes a tiny sound like a page filing itself. Some doors open to memories, but trimmed of their sharp corners. A rainy afternoon, pencil shavings, tea too sweet. A thought that would not arrive until it did, and then it arrived like a cat hopping onto a warm lap, without fanfare, with total confidence. A day in the woods with a compass that didn't point north but pointed toward a feeling that made more sense. The memory lets you keep the feeling and goes back to its shelf content. Curiosity in this place never raises its voice. It also never sits down for too long. You find a door labeled later, and when you try to open it, it opens an inch and then closes gently. A note appears. Not now, and that is kind. Across from it, a door labeled now opens of its own accord and shows a sky full of paper airplanes that never crash. They circle and exchange routes and nod their little noses at you like genealogists of ideas, tracing all the ways a thought can be related to another thought without needing to be the same. You continue. The corridor shifts from wood to fern, to carpet, to moss, to starlight, and back again. Every surface makes your steps quieter. You hear someone turn a page in a room you haven't entered, and you feel the answer to a question you didn't ask yet settle somewhere behind your ribs, like a letter sliding into a mailbox. When you open the door the sound came from, the room is empty except for a chair and a pencil on a windowsill. The pencil looks like it has been chewed by worry and used by courage. You don't take it. You touch the sill with 2 fingers and carry the steadiness out with you. On a side wall, impossibly, is a closet labeled Lost and Found. Inside are the small tools of a curious life. A magnifying glass, a pocket light, a notebook with the right amount of pages left, and a sense of direction that works best when you're not trying to use it. A tag on the sense of direction reads, "Claim anytime." You pick it up, and it floats just above your shoulder like a tame firefly. You feel a tiny click in your chest, which is the sound a compass makes when it remembers it can be patient. A door no bigger than a postage stamp opens to a vastness that smells like pine after rain. You laugh, which is a quiet sound in this place. The vastness laughs too, exactly as loud as you do, then turns its head somewhere in the middle of your body and says, "Keep going." You close that door carefully, like shutting a box of matches. There is a door at the end you think must be the end. It is not the end. It is a turn. Past it, the corridor becomes a footbridge over a creek you recognize. The water has folded your reflection into a gentler shape. You lean, and the shape leans. You wave, and it waves, and then both of you stop waving at the same time, without planning it, which feels like proof of friendship. When you step off the bridge, the corridor sighs, happy for you. It has been a good walk. One last door for now. Waits with a knob that looks like a small moon. When you turn it, the smell of glue and glitter and fresh markers drifts out. You smile before you know why. Curiosity nods toward joy and says, "Your turn." You pocket the firefly compass and walk where the colors glow. Color lives here like it pays rent. The air is a soft confetti that never falls. Sweaters hang from a clothesline strung between two stars, each one a night sky of its own. Llamas trotting across constellations. Hearts with tiny smiles, shooting stars that make wishes even when no one asks. A glue gun dozes on a pink towel. A jar of glitter sits with its lid screwed on, which is the dream version of responsibility. Everything sparkles a little, but nothing shouts. You set your lantern on a table that is also a cloud. The table does not wobble. It simply floats with your breathing. A stack of craft paper shuffles itself into rainbows and then into comfort colors. Lilac, warm yellow, soft teal, cake icing pink. Scissors shaped like dolphins nap with their eyes painted on. When you pick them up, they yawn a tiny dolphin yawn and feel exactly right in your hand. The first cut you make sounds like a sigh that has been meaning to leave for hours. Joy in this room is busy but never hurried. You try on a sweater patterned with cheerful stars. It fits every version of you at once. Today you, yesterday you. The you that laughed at noon 2 summers ago. The you that will make a new friend by the vending machine sometime next week. The sweater warms but doesn't heat. It is a good kind of held. A bulletin board collects reasons to smile, all scribbled in big marker, the loops a little wild. Dog waved its tail at me, good bread, sunbeam like a friend. Found a button shaped like a moon. Didn't cry when I thought I would, cried when I needed to. Good job, tears. You add one with your own marker. The cap makes a satisfying click. You write, "Listen to the night," and it listened back. The board makes a tiny fireworks noise under its breath, respectful and proud. On the floor, a pile of yarn untangles itself, each color choosing a buddy. 2 strands twist into a braid without knots, which is a miracle, and also just how kindness works when given a minute. A plush pig with a bow leans against a basket of stickers and appears to be guarding them with comic seriousness. You ask politely, and the pig allows you to take a sticker that says, "You tried," and another that says, "You did it," and a third that simply says, "You." You put the first 2 on your sleeve. You put the third somewhere inside where stickers can't be seen but can still stick. A window shaped like a heart shows a gentle sky. Cartoon clouds drift across it. But when you look closely, they are real clouds that have agreed to be adorable. One rain sprinkles over a cupcake that sits on the sill. The sprinkles disappear before they hit the icing. Dream physics. So the cupcake remains tidy and inviting. You take a small bite. It tastes like a joke told by a friend who knows exactly how to end it. In the corner is a Polaroid camera with a glitter strap. It clicks even before you press the button, which is its way of saying hello. You lift it, frame the room, sweaters, yarn, pig, window. A banner that reads, "Make nice things, make things nice," and press. The photo hums out and begins to develop in slow, cozy magic. While you wait, a hair clip shaped like a star blinks and asks if it can hold a worry in place for you. You let it. The worry tucks under the clip and feels managed without being ignored. Music that never had to be released starts playing from nowhere. It's a song with a chorus made entirely of the word okay, sung in 3 notes by what sounds like a choir of best friends. You find yourself swaying. You do not need to dance. You can, though. Your shoulder makes a new move, a tiny one, and decides to keep it. The camera picture finishes blooming. A soft photo of you in the room, and the lantern's circle looks like a hug you can see. A row of friendship bracelets hangs from a line like little promises. Each has a tag. For now, for later, for me, for you, for whoever needs it. You choose for whoever needs it, tie it loosely around your wrist, and imagine it flying to someone who might be awake in a lonely kitchen right now, making tea and wondering. The bracelet warms and becomes both here and there, which is exactly the right amount of magic for a bracelet. There is also a quiet place in this room, a nest of pillows by a bookshelf of picture books that adults can read without embarrassment. You lower yourself into the nest, and the pillows adjust like old friends. A book opens on your lap with a story drawn in fat lines about a day that went sideways and then found its feet. The last page says, "You made it to bedtime." The period at the end is shaped like a tiny star. Before you leave, the glitter jar asks if you want to open it. The air buzzes. You consider. The jar murmurs, "Maybe just one sparkle." You twist the lid. One sparkle hops out like a polite cricket, floats once around your lantern and lands on the tip of your nose where it becomes a dot of light you can't see but everyone kind will notice. The jar seals itself. The scissors yawn again. The pig nods. The sweater hugs without squeezing, then returns to its line in the sky. You take your lantern, which now glows the faintest pink, and look to the side door where you hear the patient hum of tools and the low laughter of a day finally making sense. Joy waves you onward with both hands and all its bracelets. The cloud table gives you back your light. The door swings and the air shifts from sugar to cedar, from confetti to clean. You are stepping into a workshop where every screw knows where it goes, and every loose hinge just needs to be asked. Warm wood. That is the first thing. Not heat exactly, permission. The workshop is arranged like a deep breath. Pegboards full of tools line the walls, each outline drawn around each tool as if to remind the tool it has a home to return to. The lights are low and golden. Somewhere a radio is tuned between stations, but in the night, the static chooses harmony. It becomes a note that holds the room together. You set your lantern on the workbench. The bench is old and steady. It has grooves worn by projects that finished strong and projects that finished later than planned, and projects that finished by turning into another project. The bench does not judge which is which. Ring stains from mugs overlap like tree rings. If you place your palm on one, the bench tells you, grain to skin, that no one is behind. Everyone is exactly where they are in the fixing. A screwdriver rolls toward you and stops at your thumb like a loyal dog. On its handle, worn half smooth, someone once wrote in marker, "Be nice to the screws." You smile. The screwdriver does too. Tools in this room have names. They are simple and right. The square is called true. The rubber mallet is called gentle. The level is called honest. The tape measure is called forgive because it always adds a tiny bit back when you come up short. On a shelf sits a box labeled mysterious parts. Not wrong, just unplaced. You lift the lid. Inside is a family of bolts, a circus of springs, a handful of washers that look like miniature moons. Each one glints like a thought that hasn't found its sentence yet. You pick up a spring. It compresses and relaxes, learning your rhythm in 2 tries. You put it back, and the box purrs. Suze is here in the way caretakers are present even when they are not visible. His jacket hangs on a hook that leans like a friend. A note is tacked over the bench at eye level in big, careful letters. You're doing great. Below that. If not, we will. The we is the tools, the bench, the jacket, the radio, the quiet. It is also you now that you've stepped across the threshold. In front of you sits an object that used to be a thing and will be that thing again soon. A hinge squeaks when you test it. You look around and a can of oil edges itself toward your hand without rolling off. You tip 1 drop into the hinge's throat. The squeak tries to return out of habit, and then remembers it is allowed to stop. The hinge opens and closes, then rests, proud of its new job. Somewhere deep, your chest does the same. A drawer labeled Fixes for When You're Stuck has no tools inside. It has reminders. A pencil stub with bite marks and a working eraser. A photo of a half-built birdhouse that became a mailbox and worked better as a mailbox. A clean rag. A step-by-step list written in friendly second person. Breathe, drink water, ask the thing what it wants to be. Work on something smaller nearby. High-five yourself, try again. If still stuck, leave a note. Future you is a genius. You pull out a small project from a bin, a toy with 1 wheel stubbornly loose. The nut keeps slipping. The wrench called patient fits. You turn. The nut resists, then agrees. You test the wheel. It spins and hums a tiny song. Sounds like childhood riding past the end of the driveway and deciding the world is bigger than yesterday. You set the toy on the bench, and the bench murmurs, yes. A chalkboard on the wall is split into 2 columns. Broken, working. Under broken are words like handle, squeak, that 1 screw, trust Tuesday. Under working are words like handle, squeak, that 1 screw, trust Tuesday. The joke lands on you, slowly and well. Everything that can be broken can be working in a different tense. You pick up the chalk and add a word in both columns, heart. The chalkboard absorbs it without drama. The radio between stations softens into something like applause. There is a stool by a window where morning will be later. On the sill, a small plant in a coffee can leans toward whatever light there is. The can reads, beans. Someone scratched in the word, hope. You water it from a jar labeled, for plants, also for people. The soil drinks. The plant stands a little taller. You feel like you've been useful in a way that needs no report. On another bench sits a box of letters written blocky hand. They start, Dear Dude, and end with drawings of thumbs up and rockets. You read one. It's from a day when something important broke at the worst moment and was fixed anyway. Not by magic, but by steps taken in kindness and the kind of steady talking that keeps panic from borrowing your tools. You slide the letter back and the lid closes itself with a click that sounds like a promise being kept. A clock on the wall has 2 hands, neither pointing at numbers. Instead, each points at words scribbled around the rim. Fix snack. Laugh tri-stretch. High five. Look again done. For now. The minute hand lands on laugh. The hour hand lands on done. For now. The Timing feels right. You let a small laugh escape. The room joins you. It is a low hush laughter, safe for sleeping houses. Before you go, you stand in the center of the workshop and let the hum collect around you. Fluorescence not buzzing, wood not complaining, tools resting like well-fed cats. You thank the room aloud. The room answers without language. The jacket shifts on its hook. The radio chooses the nicer side of static. The bin of mysterious parts settles like a bowl of marbles finding their places. It feels like a hand on your shoulder from someone who has never left. You lift your lantern. Its circle is steady, and now there is a faint outline around the light, as if it learned to carry a tool belt of its own. You pass the pegboard. Each outline waits for its tool but doesn't worry. Everything returns when it's ready. You open the door to the path, and the night trades cedar for river again. Behind you, the workshop exhales, content to keep the world repaired one hinge at a time. The path is yours, soft and certain. Ahead, the wind threads the trees with a sound like pencil on paper. Somewhere, beyond the next turn, a height calls, a campfire winks, and the town leans against the hills the way a friend leans against a fence to watch the last stars fold their tents. But for now, your steps keep time with a workshop's heartbeat. Fix, rest, try, smile, as the lantern carries you on. The path grows thin and sure. Needles hush under your boots. Somewhere above, a line of ridge rock waits like a slow grin on the face of the hills. The wind changes, cleaner, colder, awake. It carries the peppery scent of pine sap, and something bright, like snow that remembers itself. You find the old lookout ladder. It is not tall, but it feels tall. The rungs flex a little, then settle. Your lantern's light brushes each rung in turn, patient as a hand on a stair rail. Up you go. The ground loosens, the trees spread, and the sky steps forward to say hello. Wendy lives in the sky the way most people live on a couch. Relaxed, legs tucked any which way. Every edge a place to lean. A flannel hangs on a nail driven into a stud of air. Her hat rides the wind like a small boat that keeps docking on the same peg. There is a campfire drawn in chalk on flat stone. At night, the chalk glows enough to be a flame without heat. It is the right amount of fire for sleeping houses. Rules of the ridge, Wendy says without saying. Her voice, the wind through needles. Step light. Look far. Laugh quiet. Leave no trace but warmer air. You take a step. The rock agrees. You look far. The town sets its lights like candles on a cake you don't have to eat yet. You laugh quiet, surprised at how easy it is to be here. The air, you swear, warms at your collar. She shows you her tools without picking them up. An axe resting with the head toward the earth like a dog with its chin on paws. Rope coiled like a friendly snake. A tin cup with a dent the size of a story told too fast. A pocket knife with a notch you can't place until you realize it was cut by boredom, turned into skill. People think heights are only about fear, the wind says in her stead. Fear is one part, balance is the rest. She taps the toe of a boot against an invisible slack line strung between two stillnesses. The line hums but does not quiver. Stand over your feet. Hold what you hold. Let everything else be air. She teaches you a trick. Pick a horizon that is not the farthest one. Pick the next one. The soft line where the hills tuck into each other like blankets. Breathe to that line. Each inhale reaches it. Each exhale lets it go. Your shoulders learn the ridge's pace, which is somewhere between a long blink and a slow smile. There is a treehouse up here that no one built. Limbs knit into joists, sky into roof, moonlight into slats. The floor is a pattern of shadow and permission. You sit with your legs through the rail and watch the town rotate itself under the stars. A thermos appears at your elbow. You don't see who placed it. Steam shivers at the lip. The first swallow tastes like cedar and the soft kind of cinnamon that never argues with the tongue. You hand the cup back to no one, which is the same as handing it back to everyone who has sat on this floor, and it is refilled somehow. Wendy's laugh slides down the slope like a sled and comes to rest in your chest. She whittles a stick without looking. The curl of shavings drifts away in a spiral and lands like sleeping birds along the rail. A good height, the wind says, is any place that makes your worries small enough to put in a pocket. You can take them home. You can wash them. You can hang them on a line and let tomorrow dry them. You test the edge, not with your boots. Edges aren't competitions, but with your breath. You fill your lungs and the ridge takes the extra and holds it for you, a neighbor with an empty shelf you're free to use. When you breathe out, the ridge gives back exactly what you need. Down slope, a loose rock shifts, a tiny thunder. You pause. The sound fades. A fox crosses a patch of moon-wet grass, glances up and nods as if to say, I fear falling too, we all do. Watch my tail, see? Balance moves. Wendy sets her knife down. She points, not at danger, but at a bridge of clouds that have come to watch the valley sleep. They are the color of old socks your favorite aunt would knit. The underside of the clouds holds a second town, tiny, upside down, perfectly still. That's the one you take with you, the wind offers. The town you carry when you have to be brave somewhere else. A little kite is stuck in a high branch, the tail tangled in needles. The kite is a simple diamond, red paper turned burgundy in the dark. Wendy does not climb to fetch it. She waits. A breeze changes its mind. The kite slips free and circles once, twice, then glides toward you. You catch it by the cross stick. It is lighter than regret, heavier than a joke. You fold it, slide it into your sleeve, and it becomes a pocket talisman shaped like a decision you already made. At the far end of the rock, a cairn the height of a knee balances impossible stones in a stack that only works here, only at night, only when no one stares too hard. You add a pebble. It clicks into place. A star blinks in agreement. You are not making a monument. You are making a moment. Wendy's shadow passes over you, long and thin, then folds into the treehouse roof. The wind ruffles your hair the way a friend would. Go when your legs say go, it whispers. Not when your fear says stay. Rest when your chest says rest, not when the clock says time. You stand not because it's over, but because the ridge has taught you what it wanted to teach you. The height is not up there. It's the space you make inside your ribs. You climb down the ladder. Each rung gives a soft hello to the foot that takes it. On the ground, the forest feels wider. The path returns like a line in a notebook you didn't know you were keeping. Behind you, the ridge returns to being the top of a hill. Ahead, a glimmer that is not flame, not window, not firefly. Geometry is about to sing. The clearing is a blackboard written by winter and wiped by summer. Overhead triangles, circles, lines, the old language of shapes pinned to the night with thumbtack stars. In the center floats a figure, not a figure, more a pattern that reorganizes itself whenever you blink. If you came here at noon, you'd call it weird. At night, you call it neat. Bill is not a person here. He is thought wearing a hat. A triangle rotates until it becomes a kite, becomes an arrow, becomes a roof, becomes a slice of pie you decide to save for later. An iris of stars dilates. A line becomes a ladder, then a horizon, then a string you could follow without tugging. Rules hang in the air like chalk dust. 3 points make balance. A circle is a breath you can see. Any line can be a path if your feet are kind. No bargains, no tricks, no shouting eyes. Dream Bill is a puzzle you do not have to finish to feel finished. He breaks into pieces, light fragments, and recombines with a soft clack, like wooden blocks meeting on carpet. Each recombination labels an idea, proof by kindness. That one holds still long enough for you to read the notes, assume people try, meet them where they are, offer one gentle step. If a contradiction arises, drink water. QED. The sky opens drawer. Inside, kaleidoscopes. You lift one. It smells like fresh pencil. You hold it to your eye. Instead of shards of glass, it tumbles questions. Each turn turns a hard-edged maybe into a pattern that feels solvable tomorrow. You hand the scope back. The sky returns it to its velvet. Bill's single star eye blinks, not ominous, only alive. He tips his little top hat, a triangle wearing a brim, and releases a string of equations that become constellations, that become labels for comforts you already know. Blanket, mug, friend, window, laugh. You realize the math here is just counting ways to rest. Doors appear, flat and weightless, each a shape. A circle door opens into a room of breath, where your inhale and exhale meet, shake hands, and forgive each other. A triangle door opens into a tent of thoughts, where the sharp ideas soften at the corners and decide to be tents together, making a small village of good plans. A square door opens into a box of nothing, which turns out to be a storage cube for the extra you didn't need to carry tonight. Optical illusions walk up and introduce themselves by name. "Hello, I'm Rubens Vase," says a friendly outline, clearly two faces chatting about soup. "Hello, I'm the Impossible Stair," says a staircase that admits it goes nowhere and asks if that's okay. You say it is more than okay. It is a relief. The illusions give you a sticker that reads, "Not everything is a test." Bill whistles a tone. Angles gather like birds on a wire. They face the same way, then a different way, then all ways at once, then relax. The whistle writes itself into your breath, a triangle count. In 2, hold 1, out 3. You try it. Your chest feels like a shape that makes sense, even if you can't yet say why. He places a small puzzle box on the ground. It is made of light and wood and patience. There are no hidden latches. There is only a single instruction etched in the grain. Thank it first. You do. The lid opens. Inside is a nightlight the size of an acorn. It's already on. It doesn't shine from itself. It shines from everything around it being willing to glow a little toward it. You put the light in your pocket, next to your paper smile, next to the kite. Your pocket is becoming a toolbox. A grid spreads across the clearing. Thin lines, safe to step on. You move from square to square, not in any order, trusting your feet. In one square, a memory you misremembered softens and hands you its true shape without scolding. In another, a worry tells you it is actually a wish. In a third, you meet a younger you who never liked triangles, and she shrugs and says, "Turns out triangles are fine when they don't shout." And then she runs off to draw stars with a stubby crayon. Bill turns sideways and becomes a door again, hat a little askew. A single eye watches, not you, but your breathing, and blinks in time with it to show it cares. A line of text floats just above his brim. The solution can wait, the sleep can't. He tips the hat once more, then unfolds into the night like a napkin being laid over a table that's already set. The chalk dust rules brush your shoulders on the way out. 3 points balance, circle breath, any line a path. You carry them without weight. Geometry fades back into pinpricks. The clearing becomes simply clearing. The puzzle is not gone, it is asleep. You return to the path smiling because you solved nothing and still feel like you solved something. That is the gift of a good puzzle at bedtime. Somewhere the wind speaks numbers in a pattern you know from a distant radio, not the kind that makes you unquiet. The kind that sounds like counting sheep in a language of dashes and dots. The trees lean in. The bark holds lines you haven't read yet. The night turns the page for you. With a small pavilion of night waits ahead. Its roof is the underside of a cloud. Its pillars are trunks knotted with vines that loop like cursive. The floor is leaf, then plank, then leaf again, as if the forest couldn't decide and then decided both. You step inside. The pavilion hums, not loud, not spooky. The hum has the shape of words that haven't chosen their letters. A string of paper cylinders hangs in a row. Each holds a slip. Each slip sings a code when a breeze passes. One hums a Caesar shift, each letter sliding one down the row, polite as neighbors trading cups of flour. Another hums visionnaire, the syllables braided like hair. Another hums something you can't place and don't need to. The music is not for solving, it's for feeling how meaning can wear different coats and still be the same temperature. A long table displays alphabets that grew up in different neighborhoods. Pigpen is here, all squares and crosses like garden plots with carrots hidden under soil. Morse taps from a woodpecker perched on a railing. Short, short, long pause, short, long, short, pause. He is not in a hurry either. He spells something that becomes clear after your shoulders drop. S-L-E-E-P. He pecks once more, softer for the period. Along one wall hangs a quilt sewn from acrostics. The first letters of each line, stitched brighter, spell small truths. You are safe, take your time. Good job, try tomorrow. You trace the letters with a fingertip. The fabric warms where you touch, then cools, then warms again, the way bread does on a rack when everyone is still talking at the table. A phonograph listens more than it plays. Its horn points toward the woods, catching whispers of owls and fur, and the single wheel of a late bicycle riding home. When it does play, the record spins backward and the song still makes sense because it is lullaby scale. The lyrics accept their letters in reverse and smile. On a pedestal sits an old journal under glass. The caption says, "Invisible ink." The moon volunteers as a lamp. She dips one cool finger through the roof and lays it on the page. The blank warms, then shows, "Drink water, text a friend tomorrow, be kind to the person you are at night." The moon lifts her finger. The message fades. It is okay that it fades. You memorize the lines without trying. Semaphores of pine boughs swing in a wind that knows the alphabet. A tall tree spells out, "You belong in slow, patient arms, flag high, flag level, flag low, flag resting." You don't know the code formally. Your chest knows anyway. The message lands behind your sternum like a letter addressed without a stamp that still arrived. Floorboards creak in a planned pattern, as if someone taught them to be Braille. Knots rise just the right amount beneath your soles. Dot here, dot there. If you walk heel to toe, you read with your steps, "Stay." If you walk toe to heel, you read, "Rest." If you stand still, the boards read you and reply, "Okay." A radio sits on a crate tuned between stations, where numbers sometimes live. Tonight a voice counts softly, but not to frighten. 1, 2, 3, breathe, it says. 1, 1, 2, 3, sleep. You realize the station only broadcasts inside the pavilion. You realize it has been on forever, and you tuned in the instant you needed it. Someone has pressed pennies with tiny punches. The fountains of daytime melted into night money. Each coin bears a symbol, a small envelope, right, a mug, warmth, a window, look out, a bed, lie down, a cloud, let go. There's a bowl labeled Take One and a second bowl labeled Leave One. You swap a coin in your pocket that used to mean hurry for a coin that means window. The trade costs nothing and buys something anyway. You try a cipher for the pleasure of it. A card offers a simple key, A, B, B, C, C, D, and so on until Z finds its way back to A. You shift a line in your mind, I am tired, and it becomes J, B, N, U, J, V. It looks different. It is the same. You feel a smile twinge at your mouth. You say the original sentence quietly and feel the pavilion answer, yes, yes, and the trees echo, yes, yes, and the sky say, good. Before you go, a small child, not seen, only felt, tugs your sleeve and hands you a strip of paper where a backward message waits. You hold it to the lantern. The light shines through and flips the letters for you. You can finish this tomorrow. The child runs into the dark laughing and is immediately safe because this is a place that takes care of all versions of you. The pavilion hum drops half a step as if to say, bedtime key. You bow to the hanging cylinders, to the woodpecker, to the moon for lampwork, to the trees for the flags, to the floor for its dots. Codes do not close behind you, they rest. Meaning does not hide, it waits. You step back onto the path with your pocket a little heavier and your mind a little lighter. Far ahead, the town draws itself with gentle chalk lines against the dark. Not a skyline, more a low song line. Diner, laundromat, post office, bench, gas pump, cat, window, bell. Ordinary things lifting their heads to sing the night version of themselves. The town at night is a museum of the ordinary, and every exhibit breathes. No ropes, no guards, no signs that say do not touch. You touch with your eyes. Everything touches you back with patience. The diner's neon sighs. The sign chooses a soft color and holds it. Inside, chairs sit belly to counter like old friends who don't need to talk. The jukebox spins without spinning, humming a tune that only exists after 9. A handful of chords that sound like dishes stacked gently, and a last pot of coffee poured to keep the room warm while it rests. A server wipes a circle on the counter smaller and smaller until it becomes the size of an old coin and then disappears. She hangs the cloth up. The cloth sleeps. A bell over the door wears a sweater knitted by an elder who hates sudden noises. When the door opens for the last time, the bell purls instead of rings. Outside, the parking lot lines float a centimeter above asphalt, resting their paint feet. Moths autograph the light with cursive loops. No one will read in the morning, and that's fine because the night reads them now. 2 streets over, the laundromat windows are washing machines for stars. The big round doors turn the sky into circles. Inside, a few baskets wait, each with a story folded on top. Gym shirts that learn to be brave, towels that know the exact shape of a back, a sweater that once borrowed your sadness and then gave it back cleaner. The smell is lemon and lint, and the last line of a happy song hummed by someone who thinks they are alone and is, but not lonely. The post office sorts dreams by weight, not by address. A bin labeled heavier than they look sits beside a scale that is always kind. A wall of boxes keeps secrets behind little gold doors. Even the loudest key never wakes anybody up. On the counter lies a stack of forms that turn into letters if you sigh onto them. The top form already says hello in your handwriting. You don't remember writing it. You sign it again anyway. The gas station glows the way a lighthouse glows, but closer to the ground. There is a buzzing that would be annoying at noon and is a lullaby at 2. The clerk has a book open. A story about a train that stops in a town where the clocks are always 5 minutes late on purpose so everybody can breathe at crosswalks. A traveler buys nothing and uses the restroom and leaves a note on the mirror in finger writing. then wipes it away with the hand dryer. The mirror remembers. A bookstore light is left on in the back, not by mistake. It is there to keep the paper from feeling forgotten. A cat wanders the aisles, making the softest sound a small bell can make when it also wants to nap. Open on the counter, a book of maps of places that could fit in your pocket. The map of tonight's town shows every window that is still awake as a dot you could connect into a shape that would spell safe if you drew the line slowly enough. On Main Street, the stoplights practice patience. They hold green for nobody, then yellow for nobody, then red for nobody, trusting that somebody somewhere needs the rhythm. A bench has a dent that fits you, even if you've never sat there. Under the bench, a crack in the sidewalk grows moss in the exact color of forgiveness. The bell tower has decided it will not chime this hour. It will breathe instead, and you will hear the breath around corner edges, and in the way the ivy holds its place. The clock hands rests between numbers like someone choosing which book to take from the shelf and thinking, maybe both. In the park, sprinklers tick off, then on again, but not to water. They tick to keep time for the fireflies. The playground, empty, still rocks its swings 1 inch, then another, just so the chains remember they are trustworthy. A slide sits with dew on its spine like a creature with a cool back, dreaming winter. The river at the edge of town repeats its calm sentence. Go. The bridge nods. The stepping stones hum. On the far bank, the water tower wears the moon like a medallion and pretends not to notice. At the corner where the road tucks away into houses, a street lamp leans like someone listening from a doorway. Under it, a teenager rides by on a bike with no hands, shoulders forward, head back, a grin pressed into the night. The front wheel draws a circle in the air and then another. And then the bike is gone and the circle stays, the way a memory can hover a beat before it joins the rest of your life. A cat patrols the fence rail, tail up, jurisdiction wide. It pauses, looks at you, blinks once, and in the code learned earlier, you read the message, "You're doing fine." The cat accepts no thanks. It has many fences to walk. In a window across the street, an old lamp warms the shade from inside. Someone reads a page, and then the same page again, and then the same page again, and each time finds a new kindness in the paragraph's middle. The chair creaks agreement. The floor keeps the chair from falling. The house holds everyone up. At the edge, where the last house stops and the first dark begins, a sign that says, "City Limits," exhales. It does this every night. It lets out the day's debate and takes in the night's agreement. A moth rests on the dot of the I until morning. You pass the lot where the bus pulls in at dawn. No one stands there now. The bench has room for every traveler anyway. A schedule flaps once and lies still. The first line reads, "When you arrive, you arrive." The last line reads, "When you go, you go." Between them, squares where times would be are filled, instead with small pencil hearts. You walk the slow loop back toward the diner, not to eat, but to let the town lay a hand on your back and guide you to whatever comes next. The path to the trees waits. The lantern glows at knee height, agreeing with everything. Behind you, doors lock themselves with soft clicks, not to keep you out, but to keep the night in. Ahead, the forest rises to meet you the way a porch step does when you know it by heart. Everyday things have dreamed themselves back into place. Tomorrow they'll be ordinary again. Tonight they were holy in the quiet way that doesn't need the word. You carry the town's song with you. Jukebox hum, bell purl, washer swirl, postbox yawn, gas pump thrum, cat bell, page turn, sprinkler tick. The song slows your pulse until it meets the patient beat of the trees. The woods open. The path receives. The lantern shortens its circle to a bedtime sign. You step in, and the town steps back, content, still watching out of the corners of its windows. The river's one word follows you through the needles. Go. The other word, the one the pavilion whispered, floats up from the ground and meets it. Stay. You can do both in a story like this. You can go and still stay. You do. The sky loosens its laces. Corners forget to be sharp. Colors learn to breathe like tea steam. Time takes off its tight belt and sits back, a little crooked, perfectly fine. The town looks up and says, of course. It's one of those nights. Not an ending, an opening. Pyramids the color of old honey float like patient balloons above Main Street. They are tidy. They cast friendly shade. The shadows have round edges and keep children's chalk drawings from fading too fast. Shop signs go soft focus. Letters slide off their hooks and arrange themselves into compliments in the windows. Nice try, good heart, drink water. Gravity changes its manners, not away, aside. The world tilts half a thought to the left so that stubborn worries can roll into the grass and nap. Park benches lift 1 inch and put themselves down again as if practicing a bow. The bell tower doesn't ring, it glows. The glow has the temperature of a hand you trust. You lift your lantern and it lifts its lanternness, brighter without being loud. The circle at your feet decides to be an oval and then a gentle triangle, and then laughing, a circle again. A postcard wind slides through town, and every flag remembers semaphore. You belong, you belong, you belong, in patient sweeps. Bill is here, but not as a bargain, not as a voice that pushes. He is geometry. He's the idea of a triangle, when a triangle is a kite, a roof, a slice of pie saved for later. His single star eye blinks at the rhythm of your breath. The little top hat tips. Rules drift down from the sky like chalk dust. 3 points make balance. A circle is a breath you can see. Any line can be a path if your feet are kind. Pieces of the town float a few inches. Mailbox lids, porch steps, the mystery shack's neon, then settle in better places like pillows fluffed by invisible hands. The pavement buckles into gentle waves and then smooths, having worked out a kink it had carried since last summer. Nothing breaks. Everything stretches and sighs. The river changes its mind for a few minutes and goes the other way. Everyone knows this can happen, but only at times like this, when the world decides to be a door instead of a wall. The water's one word, go, becomes two. Go stay. The stepping stones nod, pleased to be consulted. In the House of Curiosities, jars turn their labels toward the dark, and the labels read, "No fear inside glass." The mirror that compliments you catches your reflection and says, "Soft is strong." You believe it, and it holds. Sue's workshop hums like a content refrigerator. Tools check their names. The level, honest, tells the room, "We're good." The rubber mallet, gentle, pats a drawer back to rest. The chalkboard columns, broken working, match each other line for line and make a joke about time. You add heart to both again. The board smiles without chalk. Wendy's ridge pulls the clouds like a blanket higher over town. The sack line over the valley hums a note that makes the streetlights breathe together. The ladder up to the lookout sets one more rung where a shorter friend will need it tomorrow. From up there, the town looks like a handful of coins left on a bedside table, enough for coffee and a good conversation. Mabel's sky sweaters stretch across the constellations. Glitter falls. But in this dream storm, each sparkle becomes a porch light over a door you might someday knock on. The glue gun on the cloud table warms just enough to seal whatever needs sealing. The bulletin board updates itself. You made it to now. The period twinkles. Dipper's corridor of doors unfolds along Main Street. But every door tonight opens to the same room, a room where maps are conversations, and questions shelve themselves until you're rested. On a table sits a kaleidoscope that tumbles worries into patterns that will be solvable in the morning. You look, then let it go. The scope thanks you for not staying up too late. Codes, stirred by a breeze, cross-pollinate like neighborhood flowers. Morse dots and dashes make recipes for breathing. A Caesar shift spins the whole alphabet, and everyone ends up holding someone else's letter for a moment, learning its weight. Pigpen draws squares on the air and fills them with friendly arrows that point to bed. The statue of Nathaniel Northwest climbs down, stretches his pointing arm, and points at a star instead of a future. He seems relieved. The librarian dreams the card catalog into a carousel. You and the town ride once, slow, then step off in the exact places you hope to return. Above it all, the puzzle of stars reorganizes, not to confuse, to soothe. Impossible stares admit they were jokes. Optical illusions shake hands with the common sense. The sky draws a grid you can walk without stumbling. In one square, forgiveness. In another, second try. In a third, snack. The squares do not lock. You move between them the way you move through a kitchen you know well in the dark. If there is a crackle, it is the sound of old fear turning to compost. If there is a roar, it is the river's laugh when it realizes it can do both. Go and stay, until everyone learns the trick. If there is a falling, it is only leaves changing their minds about which branch to rest on. You take the acorn nightlight from your pocket, the one that shines because everything around it chooses to glow toward it, and hold it up. The sky nods and lowers itself a little, as if accepting a cup of tea. Bill turns sideways, becomes a door, then a napkin, then a constellate kite. He writes one sentence with stars and hat brim. The solution can wait. The sleep can't. The stars sign their names underneath. A jar appears above the square, a piggy bank in the sky for time you don't have to spend. The town tosses in spare minutes, the extra 5 from red lights with no cars, the long blink before laughter. The last line of a book reread 3 times. The jar fills, clinks softly, and tucks itself behind the moon for emergencies. The storm of strangeness passes like a parade where the floats drive themselves home. Pyramids drift back into geometry. Signs put their letters back on the hooks, though a few compliments sneak into the closed signs and stay there humming. Gravity chooses down again, but keeps the side angle on file for nights that need it. You find a fallen star the size of a shirt button near the crosswalk. It is warm. It smells like pencil. You sew it onto your pocket by thinking about thread. It holds. Your pocket toolkit. Paper smile, kite fold, acorn light, window coin, gentle rules, shines a little through the fabric, enough to be found by your hand later. The town yawns. A streetlight stretches. The bell tower exhales. Someone not far away sets a mug in a sink with that kind of clink that means safe. You breathe with the buildings once, twice, 3 times. Weird is over. Kind remains. You turn toward the hill path that knows how to hold goodbyes. The lantern shrinks its circle to bedtime size, and you walk. Morning doesn't rush in Gravity Falls. It pads in on sock feet and checks the windows for drafts. You wake into a day shaped like a long, gentle yes. Today is a leaving day, but not a tearing one. Today is a folding, shirts, maps, feelings. You start with a list on the back of an old receipt, not tasks. Goodbyes. Bench under the maple. Bell tower breath. House of Curiosities door click. Workshop chalkboard joke. Ridge ladder rung. Rivers 2 words. Pavilion hum. Diner glow. Cat on fence. City limits sign exhale. Each line gets a small heart instead of a box. You will not check these off, you will fill them in. The House of Curiosities opens its door before your hand is on the knob. The bell gives one knit pearl. Inside, the leave a worry, take a smile jar is half full of folded doubts and half full of paper grins. Which is the correct ratio? You slide in the smallest worry left in your pocket. Will the next place know me? The jar makes a sound like soda fizz 3 rooms away. It hands you not a smile, but a small blank slip. On it in very light pencil. It will know who you bring. You keep the slip. On the counter, the map under glass glows at the dot where you stand. Here, it says. The word is larger than yesterday. You touch the glass with one fingertip. The dot warms and a tiny trail lights outward. Not a line to there. A thread you can hold from anywhere. The map dims to keep the secret. In the workshop, Sue's jacket hangs from its familiar hook, sleeve bent as if waving. The note over the bench, "You're doing great, if not, we will," has one new underline, probably added by a morning hand in a hurry, the good kind. You pick up the level, honest, and set it on the bench. The bubble centers itself and pauses like a blink before a nap. You nod to the tools. They nod back in the language of wood and metal, a soft, approving settle. At the ridge, the wind ties your hair with a ribbon made of air and returns your ribbon without taking it. The latter feels kinder. Each rung says hello like a friend who doesn't hug too tight. On top, the chalk-drawn campfire glows in daylight somehow. Wendy's laugh rides down a slope and lands in your pocket like a found coin. You leave a pebble on the cairn and take nothing, which is still a kind of exchange. Back in town, the diner wipes the last circle to the size of a coin again. The server sees you and taps the counter twice with her damp cloth in a rhythm that means, "Be well." You tap the wood in the same rhythm. The jukebox hum drops half a note, the way a voice does when it gets sincere. The pavilion hangs its paper cylinders a little lower for goodbye readers. The woodpecker gives you 4 dots, H and a long and a short A, and you finish the thought without pecking. Have a good rest. The invisible ink book reveals one more line when the moon, though it is day, volunteers a finger anyway. You don't have to be new somewhere to belong. The message fades. You keep it. At the post office, you address a card to later me. You write, "Remember the river's trick. Remember the bench dent. Remember the smell of flour and pine and warm metal. If you forget, sleep." The postmaster doesn't stamp it. He places it in a drawer labeled, "Will arrive when needed," and winks with his whole face. A cat meets you on the fence rail at the corner where the street lamp tilts like a listening shoulder. The cat blinks the same message as always. You're doing fine. Today it adds one more blink in the code you learned. 2 shorts, 1 long, meaning, and you will be. You scratch the cat's chin. The cat accepts and moves on. There are many fences. By the river, you kneel and touch the water the way you touch a friend's sleeve in a noisy room. It says go. It says stay. It says both at once, so clearly you laugh. The boat tied to the post hums you a cradle you could take if you had a few minutes, and you do and you don't. You pat the post and the rope ties itself a little neater. The stepping stones hum. You hum back. The bell tower breathes one long breath at the top of the hour. Not a chime, a held note. It matches your chest and makes the parting easy where it could have been hard. The clock hands stand exactly on a number, and then decide it is good to be between numbers again for a while. Time can be precise later. Today it can be kind. On the square, the statue of Nathaniel has returned to his pedestal and points in his official direction. In the lantern of day, you notice his coat is less sure than the books say. You like him more for that. The librarian in your mind files this goodbye under full and TX'd. You pass the bench under the maple. The dent fits you again. You do not sit. You place your hand on the wood, and it learns your shape one last time for now. A leaf, green still, falls anyway and lands on your wrist like a practiced trick. You press it into your notebook between two blank pages where it will make a beautiful bruise of summer. The city limit sign waits where the road exhale lives. It inhales the town and exhales the world, and does both gently so no one gets the bends. You stand with a foot on each side, inside, outside. The line is paint and is also a spell. You thank the sign for tonight's job and tomorrow's job, and the ankles of all the travelers it will never meet. It says nothing, the way a good gate says nothing. Back at your door, the suitcase is smaller than you feared and larger than you wished. It fits what matters. The sweater with the night sky pattern, the journal with margins full of kind arrows, the acorn light, the window coin, the kite fold, the paper smile, the rules that are not rules. Your lantern sits on top of everything and makes the inside of the suitcase look like a porch at dusk. You do not slam any door. You do not even close them tight. You set each one against its frame with a patience you learned from level bubbles and river words and chalk fires. You leave one window cracked for the house to breathe. You write a note and slide it under no one's door. I will be back in the ways that matter. Evening comes to wrap you. The town puts on its night face again, the one made of lamps and spokes of moon and sidewalks that remember shoes. Friends you did and didn't meet touched the brims of their hats from porches and shadows and corners of the eye. Not to keep you, to walk with you a little, pocket-sized. At the bus bench, the schedule is still hearts. Tonight a bus comes anyway. The driver smiles the tired smile of someone who has earned a pillow. You feel for your ticket and find instead the blank slip from the jar. You hold it up. The driver nods. We take those, he says without moving his mouth. You ride 3 blocks, then ring the cord because you realize walking is better. The bus slows. The door opens. You step off. The bus hums away, pleased to be a moving room for a few minutes of your leaving. You turn toward the woods. The path is there, the way it always is, when you need it. When you reach the place where the trees close behind you like curtains, you stop. You lift the lantern. You say out loud, because some words deserve air. Good night, town. Not goodbye, just good night. Windows blink back once, twice, in no particular rhythm, which is exactly the right reply. You walk into the soft dark that holds everything you just loved. Nothing chases you. Everything stays. The town sleeps, and then it does what good sleepers do. It dreams itself better and wakes the same. Dawn softens the edges of roofs. The diner starts its gentle hum. The laundromat turns stars again in the oval doors. The bell tower does not brag. The cat patrols. The river keeps a secret and tells it to everyone who listens. Go stay. But the after-dream is not only here. It travels in pockets. It opens like a folded kite when the day tilts wrong. It hangs like a nightlight where ceiling meets wall in unfamiliar rooms. It speaks codes through the wood of new floors. It makes the first cup of coffee kinder. It makes the last bus feel like a moving porch. In another town, in another kitchen, you stand barefoot at a window you are still learning. The glass shows a ghost of your face, and faint beneath it, a pine that is not there. You tap the coin from the pavilion against the sill. The coin bears the window symbol. The window opens 1 more inch in a way you can't see but can feel in your shoulders. A streetlight outside leans like the one back home. You breathe with it. Your breath remembers the bell tower's long note and chooses to be that note again for a while. On a boat far from the valley, two brothers haul up the morning with a rope that has learned patience. Their deck is a bench with waves under it. The gulls speak Morse and then forget to because the wind is better at lullabies. A toolbox sits open against the rail. Inside, a square called True, a level called Honest, a mallet called Gentle, a tape called Forgive. The tools are dry, the hands are quiet. Clouds stack like lumber. A thermos shivers and then is brave. They find an island shaped like a loaf of night bread. The shore smells like cedar sawdust. They don't land. They circle once, twice, and name it aloud with a laugh only the tide can hear. On the map later, it is a dot with no label, and that is fine. Not everything good needs a sign. Back in the valley, the librarian opens the door of morning and finds a leaf pressed between pages of a book no one checked out. She smiles, closes it again to save the bruise, and stamps the date on the air above the desk so the room can remember. A child, one who is good at sleeve-tug messages, sits cross-legged by the low shelf and sounds out a title backward for the joy of making sense two ways. The phonograph listens more than it plays. The city limit sign does its breathing exercise. In, out. It learned it from you. It keeps the speed of cars just a little slower than hurry. It whispers to tires with paint flake lips, "Thank you for visiting at the right speed." Wendy ties a ribbon of air around a new friend's ponytail and teaches them how to stand over their feet. A kite comes loose every few days on purpose and finds the sleeve of someone who needs a decision shaped like folded paper. The cairn gains a pebble, loses a pebble, gains two back. Balance is a verb. Suze hangs a fresh list on the chalkboard. Both columns, same words. He adds one more at the bottom under broken and working alike, future. The bubble in the level smiles at the joke. The radio between stations picks a kind static. The plant in the coffee can grows two new leaves and points them where the morning will be even before the window agrees. Mabel's room, any room colored with her laugh, keeps a jar closed and lets one sparkle out when a day is too heavy. Stickers find sleeves in far cities. You tried sticks to a train ticket. You did it, sticks to a grocery list. You sinks invisible into a chest and lives there. Dipper's corridor shows up in libraries and stairwells and crowded sidewalks where someone needs a door to a softer room. The door labeled later does its gentle close. The door labeled now opens to a desk with a pencil chewed by worry and used by courage. A kaleidoscope tumbles hard-edged maybes into tomorrow's patterns and doesn't mind being put back on the shelf. Bill's puzzle becomes a game you play with clouds and crosswalks. 3 points balance. Shoe, shoe, breath. A circle is a breath you can see on winter glass. Any line can be a path if your feet are kind. Curb, crack, curb. His hat appears sometimes, tilted onto a street sign, and the letters reorganize for a second into SLEEP before they go back to stop. You smile, wait, cross, wave at a driver who waves first. The river's trick, backward, forward, shows up in conversations that deserve a second pass. You say a thing, you say it again, kinder. The current accepts both sentences and delivers the one that helps. A friend texts you up, and you are, but only long enough to send a window coin through the phone. You can finish this tomorrow, they do. You do. At night in that other kitchen, you place the lantern on the counter. It is not bright. It is not small. It is exactly the size of now. It throws a circle that includes the sink, the drawer with the good spoon, the plant in the jar glass, the note you wrote yourself and slid under no one's door. The circle includes you as if that were obvious. Your shoulders believe it. You make a small altar out of practical things. A key, a bus pass, a ribbon, a bolt, a pressed leaf, a button star. You do not kneel. You stand and brush your hands together the way woodworkers do when they've sanded just enough. You say quietly to whichever room is listening, "Thank you for the slow light." The room answers by cooling 1 degree and holding steady. Weeks will pass. They will arrive like buses with heart-shaped timetables. You will miss the town without suffering. You will carry it without strain. You will find benches with the right dent in cities that do not know maple. You will smell night bread where bakeries keep different hours. You will see cats blink messages on fences you've never leaned on before. You will be waved through by stoplights that never met you. You will be tired, then you will sleep. The sleep will do its old work in new rooms. And Gravity Falls? It will keep doing what it does when no one records it. The diner will purl. The laundromat will turn sky. The bell will breathe. The post office will weigh dreams honestly. The House of Curiosities will keep the door on the latch for anyone who needs to leave a worry and take a blank slip. The workshop will oil a hinge at the exact second it would have squeaked. The ridge will keep a rung for the shorter friend. The pavilion will hum in the key of patience. The river will practice both directions so you can remember later. The city limit sign will exhale without asking for thanks. If you return in body, the map will light here, and the dot will be bigger than last time. If you return in sleep, the lantern journals will turn their pages toward you, and the moon will volunteer her finger. If you return in a breath, that will be enough. If you do not return for a long while, the town will not keep score. Because the secret of an after dream is this: it is not after, it is inside. You close your eyes. Pines lean in the room where you are. A moth reads the light and decides to write back tomorrow. Somewhere in the valley that taught you the shape of the word safe, a porch light turns itself on for no reason other than practice. You breathe once with the trees you remember. The breath fits. "Go stay," says the river in your spine. "Okay," says your chest. And the night, kind and wide, keeps watch. The forest teaches the last lesson by standing still. Not a test, a posture. Pines rise in their long raincoats, each a quiet tower with rooms you can only enter by breathing. The trunks carry rings that remember fires that didn't win, winters that did their work and then left, summers that stacked like honeycomb. Needles knit the air into a soft sweater that fits anyone who steps beneath it. The ground does its old magic, springy where your heel lands, generous where your toes press, patient everywhere else. You lift the lantern. It doesn't get brighter this time. It gets truer. The circle at your feet is the size of a story you can keep. It touches a root, a cone, a pebble shaped like a worry that has round edges now. When the breeze moves, the light ripples the way a lake does under a sky that is pleased with itself. Everything you have met arrives without arriving. Somewhere to your right, the small applause of the diner's cups stacked for morning. Somewhere ahead, the pavilion's hum choosing the key that matches your chest. Over your shoulder, the workshop's radio between stations, picking the harmony that makes courage stay. High above, the ridge laugh, low and sure, the sound of balance practicing kindness. Near your knee, the cat's bell sounding like a yes. Down along your spine, the river's two-word sentence spoken in water. Far off and also here, a triangle in a hat that has decided to be geometry only, tipping toward sleep, blinking at the rhythm of your breath. Mabel's sky sweaters stretch as constellations. One has a stitch pulled out on purpose so you can make a wish without saying it. Dipper's corridor of doors threads the understory, but tonight, every door opens to moss, and the moss answers all questions with the same word: rest. The founders take their benches in the Mind Theater on the square. Nathaniel points at a star and shrugs. The librarian files this shrug under wisdom. The mayor loses count of lampposts and remembers instead to be a lamppost for a moment, standing, glowing, listening. The card catalog pulls your drawer and writes you a note without ink. You were here. That is enough. You walk deeper, and the forest breaks into rooms that are not rooms. A nave of trunks where owls keep the minutes. A kitchen of fern where the floor smells like green and the counters are low enough for small hands to help. A hallway of fallen logs that creak with old news, none of it urgent. A bedroom of needles where the blankets are woven by gravity and time. Above every room, the same roof, stars nailed to black by kindness. You stop and close your eyes. The lantern keeps its circle. Behind your lids, the after-image makes a gentle coin of gold. You set that coin in the bank of your ribs and feel the balance climb by a little. Not riches, plenty. When you open your eyes, the pines seem taller and also exactly what they were. That is how gratitude works when you pay it to attention. A small path, less a trail than a habit, leads you toward a low hill, the exact height of a good breath. You climb without thinking about climbing. At the top you sit because your knees ask nicely. Sitting, you see farther, and what you see is not strange. Roofs, roads, the river's silver spine, the bell tower holding up a piece of sky so the tide of clouds won't fall too quickly. You see the city limit sign exhale its old exhale and inhale the road for practice. You see a porch light turn itself on for no reason, but to rehearse being ready. You see a person, maybe you, from a future morning, walking with the same lantern in a different hand. The hill keeps a bench dent the way the Maples bench in town kept one. Your bones learn its curve. A pine cone rolls until it touches your shoe and stops, as if to say, we are in the same place. The wind checks your hair but does not rearrange it. A moth uses your lantern to write a letter to tomorrow, looped and clear, and then mails it by folding itself into sleep on a twig. If there is wisdom to collect, it comes like this: a list taped to the inside of your heart with blunt scissors. Leave worries in jars that fizz. Carry smiles you can fold. Keep a coin for windows, open them often. Save a kite for decisions. Wear a sweater that fits your yesterday and your tomorrow at the same time. Use tools with names that matter. True, honest, gentle, forgive. Count lampposts until you forget, then laugh, then start again. Trust bridges that hum and stones that hum back. Learn codes. Let them sing you to bed. Let geometry be lullaby. Breathe like a circle. Balance with 3 points: foot, foot, breath. Remember that the river can do both. Say goodnight more than goodbye. You don't have to memorize the list. The forest will hold it. You just have to visit sometimes, even if visiting is closing your eyes on a bus bench in a city where no one knows your name, and letting a pine you can't see lean into the room. The hill gives you the memory of winter as a kindness, not a warning. Branches hung with quiet snow tamping sound into velvet, your breath a small cloud that minds its business. Then the hill warms you with summer, dust and shafts of sun, the sweet sharp of sap, the long cricketing that pushes every worry to the edge of the map where it can sit and take off its shoes. Then the hill shows you spring and fall, quick flash, flower and flame, enough to say, change is the rhythm that lets you sleep. You take the acorn nightlight from your pocket and set it on the hill. It shines the way it always shines, by asking the world to shine toward it. The grass answers. The bark answers. Your hands answer. For a moment it seems the stars answer too, lowering themselves a finger's width so you can see their faces. It is a nice thought. You let it go like a paper boat on a puddle. From the thicket at your back, a last guest arrives, a child version of you, dirt-kneed, shoelace tangled, holding a pencil chewed by worry and used by courage. They sit down beside you without asking and lean shoulder to shoulder the way children do when they don't know that's affection, and so it is the truest kind. Is it safe, they ask with their weight. You answer by staying. That is enough. The child tugs your sleeve and hands you a strip of paper with backward letters on it. You turn it to the lantern. The light shines through and flips the message. Go when you're ready. Stay while you rest. The child nods, satisfied, and runs into the trees, where all versions of you keep each other good company. You rise because your legs say rise, and your chest agrees. The hill lets you go without keeping any of your weight. The pine cone rolls back to its own idea. The moth finishes its letter. Your lantern is lighter because your hands are. You step back down the habit path, and the forest thanks you in its hundreds of languages, all of which sound like wind-making choices. At the edge of the trees, the town lifts its head. The bell tower thinks about chiming and decides to breathe instead. A shop sign flips from closed to resting. The cat takes attendance of fences and reports all present. A house on a corner moves from awake to watching. You feel seen without being looked at. You turn once to take the forest in, and the forest takes you in, and the taking is the same in both directions. The pines keep standing. The rooms keep rooming. The roof keeps starry. You say the last good night of the night to them, and it lands like a leaf on a sleeve. You leave it there. It looks right. The path to town waits if you need it. The path to bed waits, closer. You choose the softest one. Set the lantern on the nightstand of wherever you are. Let its circle be enough to include your pillow, your breath, the small tools in your pocket you don't have to take out to feel. The paper smile, the window coin, the folded kite, the acorn light, the two-word river, the rules that are not rules. Lie back. Feel the map under glass, light the dot where you are, here bigger than yesterday, exactly the right size for tonight. Listen for the town song as it plays itself one last time in the long hallway between waking and sleep. Diner purr, laundromat swirl, postbox yawn, gas pump thrum, bell tower breath, cat bell blink, woodpecker's dots, pavilion hum, workshop radio, ridge wind, river go stay, sky puzzle shh, breathe with the bell tower, in slow, hold a little, out, longer, again but smaller, again but smaller. Imagine the river doing both inside your ribs, moving forward so tomorrow can come, moving back so today can settle. Let it carry any sentence you don't have to finish tonight to the stepping stones, where it will hum until morning, where it will still be yours. If a thought knocks, give it a pencil and a page in the lantern journals, and promise to read it by lamplight later. If a worry arrives in shoes, let it take them off and sit on the bench under the maple for a while. If a triangle in a hat shows up, tell it kindly that geometry can wait until after dreams. It will understand. It will become a kite and fold itself into your sleeve. Let your bed learn from the workshop bench, old and steady, proud of scrapes, content to carry weight without complaint. Let your pillow learn from the cairn, stacking the day's stones so they hold each other up. Let the clock learn from the ridge. Time can be kind. Open the window a little with the coin. Hear the far sprinklers keep time for the fireflies, no matter where you live. Hear a bus sigh to a stop 3 blocks away, in a city you might never visit, and feel welcomed anyway. Hear a porch light practice in a town you can smell if you try. Flower, pine, warm metal. If you need a sign, let the stoplight outside your memory flash an extra word before it goes back to itself. S-L-E-E-P. Wave at it. It waves first. If you need permission, sew the button star to your pocket with a thought and touch it twice. It turns into a yes you can feel. If you need company, picture the bench dent and know that anyone who ever sat there is sitting with you now, not to talk, just to be. If you need nothing at all, that is also something. Keep it. Close your eyes. Let the lantern dim on its own. Let the room become the forest room, the kitchen fern room, the hallway log room, the bedroom needle room. Let the roof above you fill with old nails and new stars until your breath matches their quiet. Say goodnight to Gravity Falls, even if you are far. It will hear you because the pines have learned to lean through walls. Say goodnight to the town that taught you how to leave without tearing and how to carry without strain. Say goodnight to the you that walked the paths and the you that will walk them later and the you that is already dreaming. And finally, let the rivers speak the last line so you do not have to. Go stay. Go stay. Go stay. Good night. Sleep well beneath the pines.